Welcome to today's episode of the Dog Training Dogma with your host, Jonathan Katz. I've trained everything from pet dogs to police dogs, and here's my take on dog training. We have in the studio with us, as always, is Hood Rat Heather. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome, Heather. And my apprentice, Isaiah.
Hey.
And we also have in the studio with us today is Elon Tusk.
Hey, how's it going?
Sorry, wrong button.
Elon is a student of ours, and we wanted to have his take on today's topic. Today's topic is the GOAT. What is the GOAT? To me, the GOAT, the term GOAT, greatest of all time, is a term of endearment. It is a term of endearment for someone that you respect in an industry. In sports, a lot of people would say that Michael Jordan was the GOAT in basketball. A lot of people would say that LeBron was the GOAT or Kobe was the GOAT. We can use a lot of sports references because it's a term that's used a lot. You know, this all stemmed from another trainer's opinion that you should be delusional and you should call yourself a GOAT and no other man should call another man a GOAT. I have a lot of GOATs. I have a lot of people that I look up to and respect. I've been doing this a long time and I have a lot of experience, but there's also people that I truly look up to and respect in this community that I would say are my GOATs. People that, to me are the greatest of all time in what they do, right? You know, in just, we compete in PSA, and you could say in PSA, there's a lot of GOATs. Right? There's every person that their dog was in the Hall of Fame, people that have titled a lot of dogs. There's a lot of GOATs. You can't say that one person is the GOAT, because I was just last weekend in Massachusetts and I was having this conversation with a few people stopped me and said, "Hey, Jonathan, we love the podcast. Keep going." And it really touched me because it really made me want to keep going, and it made me want to come back and record. And, and I appreciate every one of you that, have reached out to me and given me positive feedback. And, this is such a driving force of mine. I look at Heather and Isaiah and I'm like, when are we recording again? Because I'm really enjoying it. And I truly appreciate all the feedback, like who's the GOAT of podcasts? Joe Rogan?
Joe Rogan.
Right now, yeah.
Okay.
But the thing, to qualify, greatest of all time is technically an acronym, right? So it's GOAT that's what it is, greatest of all time.
For sure.
But of all time then implies that it should always be ever changing. So for example,
because times change?
Right. Because
yes.
if we go to sports, at the time that Wilt Chamberlain played, he's a famous basketball player.
Yes.
There's no question that he
Wilt
was the
Chamberlain
best.
was a GOAT.
Right. even though Bill Russell beat him in the championships, you could talk about the teams in there. But I'm talking about as an individual player, there's no question that Wilt was better.
Yeah.
But then the next generation that came, Magic and Larry Bird, they shot better, they did things better. So, okay, now you're the new GOAT, but you still cannot forget about Wilt. You see what I'm trying to say?
100%.
Because if there was no Wilt, then there would be no Magic at the same caliber that we know him.
Magic's a GOAT.
Right.
Goats are generational.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no,
with,
please.
With the word GOAT, I feel like there's a lot of humility in being the best at what you're doing, right? And there's a quote by Walter Payton, and he says, when you're good at something, you tell others about it, but when you're great, others will tell you about it, right? And so there's that humility of when you're the best, you're not going to go around telling people you're the best. You're going to let your work show. You're going to let your years of experience and championships or titles show that you are the best at what you do, but yet you're not going to go out there and continually say, hey, I'm the best at this, because there's still an opportunity for you to learn and to get better and to be humble about it.
For sure.
Walter Payton, another GOAT.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think, well, with Kobe passing recently, and there's a lot of been stories about him because we're trying to honor his time and how great he was as a person and everything on and off the court.
It's a legacy.
He explained to us a lot of the mentality that he had in his own mind while playing the game. Not necessarily saying he had moments where he was being a little childish and showing his ego too much, but he was telling us what he thought in his own mind. So I think it's okay in your own mind, on your own, to be yo, I am the best, because then if that's what drives you, that's what drives you. That's your motivation. That's okay. But you can't then discredit every. You see what I'm trying to say?
I think it's a strive to be the best.
Right.
You can't be the best because you should always wake up being a better version of yourself every day. So, in my opinion, I don't think you can call yourself a GOAT.
Right.
I think that a GOAT is a term of endearment that's given
Somebody
to
else
you
has
by is given to you by someone else or other people, a group of people, right?
What I meant to say is I'm more so like if you think like it's manifestation, like if you
have
think
to be
in
confident.
the way,
There's no question of confidence,
Right.
but I don't think
it
the
gets
term
misconstrued.
GOAT and confidence are the same thing. They're not synonymous by way of, like I'm confident in what I do, but I would never in a billion years refer to myself as a GOAT.
Right.
Right. Now, when someone else that I respect puts a GOAT emoji on one of my Instagram posts, like I'm always super honored.
Yeah.
People that I respect are giving me the respect. And, that's really the only way that respect is there is you have to earn it. You can't just earn it through followers. You have to earn it through hard work and helping people and being there for people and supporting other people.
Right.
Jordan was the GOAT, but was he the GOAT by himself? No, he had an entire team of the greatest team. Would you say that generation of Chicago, like of the Bulls, that was the GOAT team for Chicago?
Yeah, at that time especially, definitely.
Okay.
I think now the Warriors passed them, but
Okay.
again, this is another conversation of
It's a
the
different GOAT.
generational.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because just in the season records, that's a sport conversation. But yeah,
Yeah, but again, it's hard to have this conversation without talking about sports.
right.
Because in what other industry do we usually look at people and call them a GOAT other than sports?
Not a whole lot, honestly.
Yeah.
Some other things you could say, like, to me, I was just watching Modern Marvels, and Nikolai Tesla was the GOAT of, electricity.
Right.
But you could also say Thomas Edison was. Maybe he didn't come up with everything, but he put everything together and brought it to the masses.
He popularized it. Yeah.
You
So
know?
again, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you can't. If you, for example, let's say dog training. Let's like bring it back. If you never did the things that you did and learned the things you did, then I wouldn't have been able to learn the things as quick, and therefore so on and so forth.
You're talking about generational goatness.
Knowledge,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
but that's how it passes. Like, if I
Yes.
wasn't able to be humble enough and say, well, this guy is way better than me and potentially one of the greatest, I should train with him, then I wouldn't have, like, it's the same thing. Like, if Magic didn't ever play, then we wouldn't have known. Everybody would have had to just learn Magic's moves on their own playing around. They
Yes.
wouldn't have been able to see it and be like, oh, that's what I'm about to do.
So
For
do you
sure.
think that GOAT factor influences other people, right? You think about Steph Curry and how he changed the game. He may not be the greatest shooter of all time, but as of right now, he is. And he influenced the younger generation, the college generation, right? And then you talk about dog trainers. Well, you look on the PSA Facebook page, like, hey, who do I have over to my club to do a seminar? And you see a couple names. And Jonathan Katz is always one of the ones up there. And you're very humble about it, and you're very receptive to people calling you good at what you do. But yet, at the same time, you're passing on that wealth to others while continuing to improve yourself.
I mean, and I appreciate that. Sometimes it's hard to acknowledge when people compliment you. For many years of my life, I was very self-deprecating. People are like, you're awesome. And I'm like, I fucking suck. It took a long time for me to feel confident in what I do and be able to confidently give someone an answer, or if not, figure out the answer relatively quickly through science. Heather asked me a behavior mod question, and I had to rack my brain. It really made my brain work, and it made me feel good that I could come up with the answer, and we came up with the answer. But I said, it's the first time in 10 years I looked at someone and said, give me a minute, I'll get back to you. Right? Normally it's about learning how to process in the moment that makes you good at what you do. And so it just takes a long time to do that. And you should always remember where you came from. You should always remember what your upbringing is. And you should always remember where you learned from, so my mentors are some of my GOATs. I'm going to name off a whole bunch of GOATs today, because the whole no man should call another man a GOAT or woman a GOAT. I think there's a lot of GOATs, and, I'm definitely going to leave some people out, not on purpose, just, you can't name everyone, but I have a lot of GOATs. And my mentors are my GOATs. Rob Dunn and Jesse Gabriel, shout out to them. They gave me my foundation in dog training. They taught me how to handle an aggressive dog. They taught me how to start to communicate with dogs, and they taught me markers, and they helped me gain a passion for dog sports, John Johnston. John Johnston is the man that taught me how to feel comfortable in the bite suit. That man, I always owe a debt of gratitude for him. I decoyed in a club for 6 months, and I sucked. And I never got any better, and I was always frustrated. I'd jam a dog, and then they'd yell at me. And I'd go, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, guys. Like, you're not teaching me. Teach me. Yeah. Just stand there and catch that dog. So I said, I need to learn, and I'm going to find the best person that I can learn from. Now, John Johnston was the director of French Ring NARA in the, I think, early 2000s, But I really had no desire at the time to train French Ring. I really went to him because he trained a ton of protection dogs and police dogs. And that man made me feel comfortable in the suit. That man made me feel comfortable to take a bite anywhere in the suit, not just left bicep. I literally cried myself to sleep at night trying to find a comfortable position that was not bruised every night. And I ended up just like sleeping on my back because you lay on your left side, you're like, ow, the right side, ow. You lay on your stomach, ow, but I went back to club feeling confident in the suit.
I love that story because it reminds me of the story that they tell about Kobe, about how, after he missed 2 game-winning free throws or 2 free throws throughout the game, he stayed up until 4 a.m. shooting free throws, right? And then he texts his trainer at 3 a.m. the next day. He says, hey, I'm in the gym. Let's get to work, right? And so you think about like that adversity that he tried to overcome just by missing 2 shots. And then obviously you're not Kobe Bryant, but you getting in the bite suit and the next day you're like, hey, I'm ready to do this again, right? It's kind of just like that kind of hunger to get better at what you're doing.
For sure. I mean, but that should be your goal as a dog trainer. If you've decided that you don't need to learn anymore, you're never going to get any better.
Yep.
You're always going to be stuck in what you're at right now. You're never going to be able to reopen up your mind and learn. And that's a major fear of mine. Is I never want to stop learning. I never want to stop my education because at a minimum I can be learning from the dog. The dog was the truest teacher of all. The dog was the one that taught me really how to train dogs, but I needed all that previous knowledge to be able to see what I was reading and to know what I was looking at and to be able to read dogs' body language.
Yeah, so you have 3 PSA 3 dogs right now. You have 1 competing in the 2s, and then once this one gets through the 3s, are you going to continue with Malinois? Do you think that maybe your direction is going to change in PSA and dog sports?
I really want to do. That's a good question. I really want to train off-breed to PSA 3. And my goal is to do 5 and then retire from competing in PSA and compete in other sports. That's when I'll start to train for Schutzen. That's when I'm raising Lion for French Ring and Mondio Ring, and so that'll kind of be a dog that's solely dedicated to that, as opposed to Cougar had a PSA 3 and a French Ring 1. She kind of timed out with my schedule and everything actually going. She had most of the training for Ring 2 and Ring 3, but I just didn't have the time to do it. And the only person that was closest to me, which is another one of my GOATs, is a good segue, is Joel Clerk. I've talked about it in previous podcasts, is this man's resume from, he's been decoying since it's 11 years old. He got his first suit. And at 11 years old, he was like, oh, it's not like, oh, at 11 years old, they put him in the suit. They're like, no, at 11 years old, they put him in the suit and told him to run, And I think he's in his mid-20s. And the amount of accomplishments that this man has is extremely impressive. And he has, he just won Mondio 3 World National Champion. Congratulations to you. Shout out to you, Joel. I always enjoyed training. It's hard for me as a trainer having my system and wanting to train for another sport, because a lot of trainers want you to just, oh, you're coming to do French ring? Well, just do what I do and you're going to do it my way. And the problem is if the dog was raised in that system, that's fine. This is an adult dog that already has a lot of communication. Like I went years ago and trained Cougar with another trainer and had a really bad experience because he put the dog in a prong collar and he just started banging the dog around. She started barking all like, she started overloading. She didn't need that. So Joel's ability to train the way that he trains with his dogs and then modify his system to every other person he works with, not just me, every single trainer, to me is extremely impressive. And, it's hard to also, like coach people and also be good at it. Yeah. Like that's my goal as a trainer is why do I have to go out and put certain scores down? Why do I have to go when you watch the video, is there any handler help? Like, because when I judge and I'm judging, it's like 22 trials this year. Like when I judge and I hit people for handler help and I show them what is handler help, like I have to be an example. They can't be like, oh, I watched his video. He's got handler help all over the place. Nope, I got no handler help, right? So I'm going to be held to the same standard that you are, but I'm going to expect that I'm going to be a role model for what is the standard.
Right. And I think that's what, like, oftentimes you won't see people that could be considered a GOAT calling themselves a GOAT. But in the rare times that they do, because if I'm not mistaken, both Michael and Kobe would call themselves GOATs while they were playing. Not necessarily the word GOAT, but they would refer to themselves as the greatest ever. Like, you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
But the difference was the play before when they said, I'm the greatest ever, they will go back and dunk on the whole team on the other side. So it's like, it's valid because you just proved that you are. Like, nobody could question, nobody could stop you. So when you go out again and get another one in the weekend and then shoot it again on a different field, because it's like, I'll show you that it's not the dog, it's not the field or the decoys or whatever, or the judge. Like, that's when you're like, okay, what else can somebody say? But then when the dog don't want to engage in the car, and then you like, if your dog don't engage in a car in a PDC, then how can we call you, like, you know what I'm saying? How can you even think you're the GOAT? That's crazy.
It's sad to me that we have an industry of a lot of highly inflated egos of people that believe with no proof, actually the opposite, proof that they're not the greatest of all time.
Right. Multiple times, though.
Multiple times. And you also can't take that as a claim for like, oh, the dog sucked and I trained it through it and I'm an amazing trainer because of that. No. Because maybe you're just really bad at selecting dogs. Or maybe, how about the answer is you never properly trained the dog in the first place? You didn't actually. Do you know how many times I see people fail in the car? And when I ask them, how many times have you done this? They're like, a couple of times. And I'm like, those are rookie numbers. Give me 20 times. Give me 30 times. Like, the dog should, this is the easiest scenario. The dog has to go bark, 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 and then out, bark, 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 bark. It's so simple, yet a lot of people fail. And it's a shame because it's just people didn't properly prepare. People didn't show the dog the picture enough. They didn't train harder than they need to.
Right. And well, when that's the play you run, I can't even understand why you would call yourself the GOAT. You see what I'm saying? Like, you run in weird plays.
And this isn't to say that this person is doing this, but I've been to only 5 PSA trials. One of them was nationals. One of them I competed in. In every single trial in level 1, there's always a handful of dogs that try to rip their muzzle off during the level 1 healing. This is the very first exercise you do, and it baffles me that people aren't able to get their dogs past this first scenario, right? And you build that onto the basics, right? There's only so many type of behaviors that you have to teach in PSA. One of them is healing, right? Whether it's healing with distractions, healing with the muzzle, at the core level, it is healing. And
it's all
the
just
same
healing,
for every
yes.
exercise.
Can you clap
behavior.
for him for that, please? Because that's a very true statement.
Yeah, and again, 5 PSA trials and like understanding, just reading the rule book and seeing what's
Wait,
graded
reading
on.
the rule book?
I have read the
Wait.
rule
Yeah,
book.
that's
That
crazy.
deserves another clap.
I have read up to level 3 and 3.
I cry. I shed a tear. I want to get little like teardrop tattoos for every time I hear that someone competes and they haven't read the rule book, and my face would just be covered in teardrop tattoos. Okay. It's really sad to me that people don't do that enough. So thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate you.
Yeah, again, I'm in the military, so anything I say is not endorsed by the U.S. Air Force, the DoD. These are my personal opinions. But as someone that wants to learn and get better at something, the first thing you do is read the manual, read the book, read the instructions, read anything that has correlation to what you're about to attempt, and you will gain at least a 60 to 75% understanding of what is required of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it goes down to basic just understanding, you know. I would say my main GOAT, which you've heard me talk about before, as I referred to my main mentor, the man that taught me the most, is a gentleman named Walid Malouf. Walid is an extremely gifted, you know, I say that he gave me my third eye. You know, he opened up my mind into how does the dog actually think and how to truly communicate with that animal. And you know, he taught me how to raise puppies, and he taught me how to back chain things. And, you know, he took me in. I did an apprenticeship. It was a really shitty apprenticeship. All they did was try to break me down to try to build me back up again. And he was always the person that always kind of stood beside me and cheered me on and encouraged me. And, you know, he definitely saw, I can only attest to, he saw what my potential was, and he invested time into me, because he could have told me to fuck off. He's told a lot of people to fuck off. Like, he could have told me to fuck off. And that's why I'll always sing his praises. You know, people always hear me talk about him, because to me, that is my number one GOAT. You know?
Do you feel like in their respective avenues, as you qualified, that like Walid and Joel are better than you in their respective avenues?
100%. 1,050 billion %.
And I think they would say the same thing with you and your avenue.
For sure.
At least from what I know about
them. For sure.
And that's, I think, what even makes y'all more cemented as GOATs, because you never want to be the smartest person in the room, right? Like that makes me uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to know the most in the room.
Yeah.
So you always have to be seeking more and learning. So if you do think you're the greatest, then you're in the wrong spot, because you're not learning anything then. You know what I'm saying? For
sure. You know, there's I think going to there, every venue has their GOATs.
Right.
You know, I would say that for PSA, the GOAT of PSA is Jerry Bradshaw. He is the man that created the sport that we all love, that we all devote a lot of our time to. Like, I travel everywhere judging, and I meet people all the time that are like, I literally work to be able to go to PSA trials. Like, this is their life. And it really like hits home to me, because this is also a major part of my life, dog sports in general, but PSA, you know, like every time someone's like, oh, is it fun judging? And I'm like, no, you stand out in a field. It's hot. You have to be on the field the entire day. The decoys get breaks. The stewards get breaks. You know, you don't get paid. This is volunteer. And then at some point, at least one of the trials, someone's going to yell at you like and act like you're an asshole, when I'm really just there to do my job and write whatever the dog does to points that go on a sheet. Right. And every time people complain about judging in general, the answer is always just train harder. If you don't like, it's all about the performance that you put down. It's not about the score that I put down. I put down the score that you brought. Right. We don't start with a 0 and gain points. We start with 100 and lose points. Right. So we have to bring out the dog that's prepared to do it. And technically they should be over prepared. Everyone's underprepared. And then people fail. I think there's a huge percentage of failure in PSAs. People go, my dog can do that. Do you know how many times I've been in a trial and people show up and they're like, oh, my dog could do that. And they're like, have you ever done a carjacking before? No, my dog will do that. All the time. And those dogs always fail in the car. They just don't know what to do. They don't understand. You didn't properly show the dog what to do. Now, I've also met people. I went out and did a seminar last year for a group. That's a newer group. And when I picked the gentleman picked me up from the airport, and he said, I failed my PDC under you a couple of years ago. And I go, well, how you doing now? And he goes, I got my PDC now. And I'm like, that's amazing. That means that he overcame from his failure. He learned from his mistakes. He came back and he worked harder and he got it. Right? You know, that's how you become a GOAT, is by working harder, by leaving the court, winning a championship, and then going and then, you know,
working out that night.
That's how you become a GOAT.
And I think for dog sports in general, it's kind of hard to apply this to normal sports, but you being involved in every facet of PSA, right? Being a trainer, being a handler, being a judge, a steward, doing these seminars, right? You're
Previous certified decoy.
Yeah,
Gave up my
exactly.
cert when I became a judge. I was never good. I worked 1 regionals. Okay. I was okay. I never my intention was never to be, be a national level decoy. I really just wanted to help out my friends. There was never enough decoys at trials, and I work dogs every day. So I might as well just jump in the suit and do PDCs or, so it was more of I was support staff. I'm, frontline infantry.
Yeah.
But
just having every facet of PSA and having 3 dogs in the PSA 3, it's hard enough for people to even pass a 1 or 2 or even a PDC at that point. You have 3 dogs in the complete level 3, and now you're still...
I used to suck.
Yeah, exactly.
I sucked.
14, 15, 20 years of you competing in the sport and gaining all this knowledge. This is kind of a slap in the face to say, hey, this guy's only good because of the people that are around him or the dogs that he's had access to, not the years he spent training.
For sure.
And the people that he's influenced.
By that same token, because I've had people say that to me about my training and with being with Jonathan, but by the same token, a lot of those same people that have said it to me are in or were in the same position that I was, where I put myself in the position to gain the opportunity to become an apprentice. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So a lot of time it's about working to even get those opportunities. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And for me, this is just a personal story. As of 2 years ago, I didn't know anything about dogs. I grew up with Great Danes. I didn't know anything about dog training. And as John's in the area, I'm like, hey, I want to learn from you. I want to come here. I want to take my dog here and just learn, just sit and learn and see and observe other people, right? And so surrounding yourself with people that are better you at the sport kind of helps invoke that learning, right? And John learns from me. I know Isaiah had a learning point from me. It was something that I didn't even do myself. It's something my dog did. And Isaiah, in the middle of getting bit, he said, it just clicked.
Yeah.
And I was like, what just clicked? He's like, I just learned something new. And to me, that feels amazing, right? Not knowing how to teach my dog how to sit, to now my dog is teaching people that are exponentially smarter than me with dogs, and then being mentored that is someone even more exponentially smarter than Isaiah, no offense.
No, I appreciate it.
It's a great feeling.
I think it is. A lot of it is with dog training is generational knowledge. And I think that's that's why we're here. We're here for knowledge. We're here to be able to put out opinions for people to hear other opinions. Again, like I said, everyone out there in YouTube land listening and watching, you give us the drive to want to continue this, because I think it is important for people to hear opinions. I think as my First Amendment right is you don't have to listen. And, there's how many views. To me, the views are the people that are actually sitting there and watching. No one's going to sit down and go 5 minutes, this is boring, I'm leaving. They might, but also a lot of people that are listening are sitting there and listening. I went on the algorithm. There's hundreds of hours of people that have listened to this, and I truly appreciate that, guys. Thank you for all the support. I wouldn't be where I was today if people didn't support me.
Right.
My support staff is, you guys are an integral part of everything, because I could not do this alone. Right. So, Jordan did have was it the 92 bulls?
Yeah. Pippin.
Was it 92?
Rodman.
There was 6 different years.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Was that one of them?
Yeah. I think
okay,
so.
Cool. I'm not really into sports. I know what goats, right? I like dog sports. I don't really like, human sports.
Athletes.
I know athletes if they've been in movies and TV, right? Who was the person you're like, do you know who?
Luka Doncic.
Oh,
No.
It was Lawrence Taylor for me.
And I was like, oh, he was in
Waterboy.
He was in what? So that's my movie references to sports. But I think I was in Massachusetts. I was judging a trial, and I was having this conversation. Most people in Massachusetts would say that Tom Brady is the GOAT. But, if you asked Heather, she would say that
I would say
Joe Montana.
Joe
Montana's the GOAT. I think that they can both be GOATs, but I think a GOAT is a different to each person. Like, my GOATs might not necessarily be your GOATs. We might have similar GOATs, right? You're not the GOAT, you're a GOAT, right? You're a GOAT. There's no A or the, it's just GOAT, right? Greatest of all time is a term of endearment. It is for someone that has reached a level of accomplishment that we believe that this person is amazing.
Right.
And you're giving them this term of endearment. I have no problem calling another man or another woman GOATs.
Yeah. I would even qualify it even more specifically by saying, I'll call somebody a GOAT if if like, for example, if you stopped your career right now, you're still good. Like your resume is still good. You see what I'm trying to say?
For sure.
So that's how I look at it.
And my opinion's always going to be, as a chef, you're only as good as the last meal you cooked.
Mhm.
So the second I stop competing is the second I become out of touch.
Well,
and the second I
and-
can't tell you what it feels like right now to be on the field, to be in a national podium and national stadium and feel that level of stress.
Yeah. But I see what you're saying, but like relating it to sports, there's gonna come a time where like let's say for decoying,
I can't physically do it.
Right.
Like when Lion tried to take out my knee like 4 days ago, and I thought that I was going to need knee surgery. I will need knee surgery, but like, thank God it's feeling better.
Right.
But yeah,
So that's what
at
I
some
mean.
point I'm going to have to train
But you're
dogs in a
not-
wheelchair for sure.
But the GOAT, when that time comes, the GOAT's title is not taken away from you.
No,
Like,
no, for sure.
See
No,
what I'm
you can
saying?
never not call Jordan the GOAT.
Right.
And you think about dog trainers like Michael Ellis and Ivan Balabanov.
So
you know,
Michael-
they competed 20, 30 years ago, and yet to this day, they're still teaching people new things. They're still coming out with new seminars and new video training for people to learn.
Michael Ellis is one of my GOATs. Michael Ellis was the first seminar I ever attended. 2005. What grade were you in 2005? We had just had the internet, right? How old were you?
First grade,
I was
maybe.
9.
Okay. And he spent like a half an hour explaining to me. He's like, oh, and Mondio ring. And I'm like, what's Mondio ring? And he spent a half an hour explaining Mondio ring to me. He taught me how to hold a tug, that we hold a tug with our hand on the outside, not our hand on the inside, because when the dog comes around, the dog ends up biting us in the hand. And when the dog comes around here, the dog bites the tug. And like, to this day, it's still a technique that I'm teaching other people. I have Michael Ellis's suit, one of his Lou de Soleil suits, downstairs. We're building the Suitsonian. It is the Smithsonian of bite suits. Okay. I have put my old St. Ov, my Bite Me camo and red suit. I have put Michael Ellis's suit. This was donated by my good friends Chris and Eileen from Damn Yankees. I just saw Chris. Chris just got his PDC. Congrats, Chris. They gave me the suit as a gift. They had the suit, and I tried to buy it so many times, and then I went up and I judged a regional championship for them, and they gave it to me as a gift, and I cried like a little baby. It's something that, it was not my bite suit, but it was someone that it was like getting Michael Ellis's bite suit was like getting a jersey worn by Jordan in a game.
Right. Well, that's what I was
With
just about
his
to
sweat.
say,
I
too.
have Michael Ellis's DNA.
Yeah.
Right? We just, we're going to extract the DNA and we're going to clone him because he's such an amazing man.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's what you just made me think about. That's another qualifying trait, I would say, for GOATs.
Yeah.
Would be the impact, positive impact you have on others and those that you that you come in contact with. You see
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Because like imagine he just gave he probably didn't even know you have until Paul told him the other day.
Yeah.
He didn't even know you had the jacket, but you're here like, yo, bro, this is crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
But
So-
it's more, I want to share it with everyone, but it's more for me of
Right.
it's nostalgia of dog training.
Right.
Like to have, it's bite suits that were iconic in history, and bite suits that were important to the development of bite sports and protection dogs. I really want one of those vintage Ray Allens that were all jute that laced up at the top. I asked Jeff Riccio. Jeff Riccio is one of my GOATs, is one of my best friends, but also a GOAT. 100% a GOAT.
Love Jeff.
Like, amazing trainer, has helped so many people. Would never in a million years ever refer to himself as a GOAT. To me, the man is a GOAT, right? And also Sean Siggins, the director of decoys. That man is a beast in a bite suit. He bridged the gap between police dogs and sport dogs. I think he's also a GOAT.
Me and my cousin, when we was messing around with Chino in the backyard,
Yeah.
we always used to say, like, I would show him videos of Sean Siggins, and I'd be like, if Chino not ready for this guy, then we're not doing stuff right. Like, that's the whole end goal.
So that was for when I first started in PSA. That's the person that I was the most scared of to send my dogs on. It's just like the Hulk ran through a box wall, and the biceps are this big and the dog's mouth is only this big.
Right.
Right. So like, that's what you were thinking about training for. And then once I saw Darryl Ritchie, who is a PSA GOAT, he's still on one of the plaques. The man that I judged I based most of my judging off of. I did a lot of my judge's apprenticeship under him. And that was the man that was the scariest. I was like, that dog really wants to get your dog off his field, right? And so, like those are GOATs. Those are your GOATs in the sport. Josh Kirby. Josh Kirby is a GOAT in PSA. Also bridge the gap between police dogs and sport dogs, and is so welcoming and friendly. And that's why, I brought Josh with me twice to India, because he's so friendly and welcoming to all these new people. And he's so personable and easy to get along with, and but still goes out and run a bunch of dogs, and then still drink coffee and smile with the people and totally leave it on the field. Then that's a GOAT, right? I asked him if I could purchase one of his suits. I asked Jeff if I could purchase one of his suits for the Suitsonian. I'm trying to find, if you are somewhere, I want to say in New Jersey or Pennsylvania, and you have a camo, it's an old Demon 8 camo pattern bite suit. It's just the jacket. I don't know where the pants went. I saw Jerry sold it maybe a year ago on Facebook Marketplace. It has a black cuff on the arm that's kind of like separated. If you have that bite suit, I will trade you for a brand new bite suit. That is Sean Siggins's original bite jacket. And I really want that for the Suitsonian. So if you are out there, if you can help us, TV land, YouTube land, Spotify land, if you can help us locate that, I want to be able to have bite suits of iconic people over time, right? It's like I have a celebrity client, and he has Michael Jackson's sequined glove in a box in the middle of his house. And I was like, is that? And he's like, that's the one he wore in Thriller. Right? Like, that's crazy. Amazing. Just to sit there and stare at it. I'm a sentimental person. And so those kind of sentimental things I like, So if I could definitely, talking about like decoy goats, if I could definitely have more decoy goat bite suits, I will cherish them and, be able to show the next generation of dog trainers. Hervé Mavunga, thank you. Hervé is one of my goats. That is my French ring goat. That was a man that I dreamed of for years to be able to train with, and Josh Kirby finally made that dream happen. He brought him to America, and I forever wanted Hervé to work Cougar. Cougar has a PSA 3 and a French ring 1, so she was a testament that you can teach the dog technique. I taught the dog. I played around for months on teaching the dog to target different parts of the body with different commands. And I never found that the dog was successful. The dog was more reading pictures and never really listening to what the commands were. And so I could cue the dog. If the dog's in a down and I say bite, they bite a leg. If they're in sit, they'll go to a bicep. But if I tried to say like Stellan or Dersh for different commands, I never found it to be successful. Well, I decided I'm going to train Cougar that if someone charges at you, take a left bicep. If they do any sort of side or lateral movements, take whatever you can get and grab a leg, grab an arm, whatever you can, right? And so Cougar's 55 pounds. I always wanted Hervé to work Cougar. And people are like, you're crazy. He's going to mess her up. Like he's going to, and I said, no, I want to see her be esquived. I trained her forever for French ring because I enjoyed watching her fight decoys, and I wanted her to be esquived. No one had ever been able to esquive her more than twice. And I brought her to national level decoys, like esquive her more than once. Come on, let's do it. I want to see her fight to get what she wants. I've seen her in PSA do a 23-second fend off. Count for 23 seconds. That's a long time for a dog to actively try to fend off. They then made the rule that the fend off can't be bigger than the dog in PSA. But that was the last time that, and now we also have a timeline of how long it can be. This was like, and the judge wasn't calling it. I'm like, she's going to keep going. She's never going to quit. So at some point she's going to grab, so I really wanted her to work on Hervé. So I came out and at 10 years old, she got to work on him, and he went to go the first bite. You can go on my Instagram. You can watch it. I cry every time I watch it because this is my dog biting a goat. And he goes to jump up over her, and she jumps up, flips around, and grabs him by the back of the leg. And I was like, that's my girl. Like, he then found her holes, and he was able to hold her off for 5 or 6 or 7 esquives. She never stopped trying, but at some point on the second session, he knew where all her holes were.
Yeah.
And that's also why he's a GOAT, because he was able to read her so quickly. Whereas she's normally, she's reading what people are doing, and she has, for a PSA dog, she has relatively good technique. And I was impressed that the first bite, he went to go jump over and she jumped up and grabbed him. And you watch the smile on his face of him being proud that the dog won. That's a GOAT for respecting. He respects the animal, and he respects the fact that the dog beat him at his move. And like, that's just a memory that'll always be ingrained in my head. Dog training is one of my greatest passions in life. And that's just like, this is one of my greatest experiences in dog training. One of them, right?
No, it's definitely awesome to see, just watching you talk about your goats, right? Your eyes light up and your face gets so up and happy, and you're smiling and you're passionate. And it's nice to see that someone that as accomplished as yourself is still finding joy in something that you've done for 20 plus years and probably do for another 40, 50 more years.
I did the one episode was harder to do. It was my episode on depression. I did this by myself. I didn't want anyone else in the studio because I didn't want any other emotion. Part of what we do here is we're playing off of emotion, right? And the banter of the back and forth and the talking, but it was something that was near and dear to my heart, and I wanted to do it by myself. And it was harder for me to do, but I think it was so important. I think to me it was the most pivotal episode I've done so far, because it's talking about something that people don't talk about, and it's something that's really important. And I think that even with all of the depressing elements of like competing and being a dog trainer, I love every second of it. I love every day. Even the bad days are good days, because you're still working towards your goal of living your dream of what you enjoy, right? When Isaiah and I are like telling everyone like, relax, calm down, slow down, let's get it right, right? But that mostly goes because people are not doing their homework at home, right? When you came in, you're like, I'm not slowing down. I'm going to keep going with all due respect, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to fight as fast as I can to do what I want. But you went home and you did all your work. And so in the beginning, Isaiah and I we're like, how do we slow this guy down? And then at some point we realized we don't need to slow him down. Just keep him on the track that he's doing. And that's why he's going to be so successful, right? It's the passion that we see that other people have that also keeps us going, right? All the videos of you out there in the park training your dog, people don't do that. People don't do it enough, so we appreciate you, and that's why you're here. That's why you're on the GOAT podcast, is because we wanted your opinion on this, because we appreciate your dedication this isn't your full-time job. This is what you do for a living. This is your passion. You love your dog to death, which is also really important to us. We do this because we love dogs. And the fact of the relationship that you have with that animal, because you love her so much and she loves you, like that also makes us really happy, which also makes us want to continue. Whereas a lot of times we look at other handlers and we kind of feel bad for the dog because they're pushing the dog past what they're capable of, and they're expecting more. It's almost like a helicopter parent being like, you're going to be the head cheerleader. And you're like, Mom, I really like to build electronics. Like, you're never going to people try to make the dog into something that they're not, or at least they try to do it too quickly. And I think you know your dog well enough that you know the sense of how quickly you can push her and what you can expect from her. So, you know.
And that's what I love about Dogma and you people, right? Like Isaiah, you, John, your club members, when I speak to them at trials or see them in passing, right? There's always this kind of community about loving your dog and loving the sport and enjoying what you're doing, right? There is a competition to it, right? This isn't just like, hey, like, this is my dog, we're going to have fun with it, right? There is a goal and there is like a drive to be the best without kind of saying, hey, I'm the GOAT, or hey, I'm doing this. Like, you want your dog to be the best and you want to compete and you want to be number one, right? Like, that's the competition. That's the athlete inside of everyone that I see at your club and meet with your people. So yeah, it's just really nice to be in this kind of environment and kind of push my dog. And Isaiah is always like, hey man, that was a really good session. I'm like, yeah, it was nice, but like, I think we can do more with her. I think we can push more. And then, you know, she does well and we keep pushing her, and, you know, who knows where we're going to be a couple years from now.
Hell yeah. We can't stop, won't stop. Like, we keep going until we can't go anymore, right?
Yeah. Nobody cares. Work harder.
No one cares. Work harder, you know, but also life happens, and life cares about itself, and time is important. And our time is we can never get back. Every second that has passed can never be returned. We can always make more money. We can always get more things, we can never get more time, And so I think it's important. Like I have a club member that hasn't been at club for a few months because she's had a lot of life issues. And she said to me like, "Oh, Jonathan, I'm scared you're going to kick me out of the club." And I go, "You didn't do anything to get kicked out, right? You're having health issues. You're having life issues. Your car constantly breaks down. That's just a product of life. And we understand that life happens. If you kick someone out of your club when they're sick, you're a fucking asshole. Like you're just a douchebag, and you need to reevaluate your life, and you need to reevaluate how you look at things, and how that the people that supported you have stayed behind you and backed you, even though you really haven't supported them, and you talk shit about their dogs, and you said that they got a shitty dog from a breeder, and all these things. Like, you really need to think about. I think to be an instructor, you need to have empathy. And I think a lot of people lack empathy, and there's a lot of people that do have empathy. And I think if you're looking for green flags versus red flags in a dog trainer is narcissist. If you go up to do a seminar and someone who's out there that's just trying their hardest, and you sit there and you berate them for, "Oh, you're doing this system and that's not going to work," and blah, 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 and you make fun of them in front of everyone, and they're just there trying to learn. They spend money to have you yell at them when you haven't done shit on your own. Like, you have accomplishments, but that's because your mentor held your hand through it. You're still your accomplishments, but they're also my accomplishments because I fucking held your hand through it. And you're at where you are today because I helped you there. Now you should surpass me, but the only way to surpass me is to continue to learn, because I'm learning. I've learned 10 times new shit since the last time you've seen me.
I think that's one of my favorite things that people have said to me. Because I wasn't always like athletic or the most athletic person. Like I had to like work hard for it. And I've had friends that were naturally athletic, like from when we were kids. But now, because I literally work doing athletic things on a daily basis
every single day.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll joke around with those same friends who's more athletic. I'm like, "Yo, let's race right now." And they're like, "Oh, well, if you give me a month to work out," and I'll be like, "But if in that month I also work out for the same month, it's still gonna be the gap." Like,
Yeah. Quick note on that. Isaiah is extremely athletic. If you go back and watch maybe on his Instagram or maybe Banana Slug Films, I believe they did the Love Bites trial. There's a slow-mo of Isaiah catching a dog. And you see not only the transfer of energy from the dog biting his bicep, but the footwork, right? It's like a ballerina.
I appreciate it.
He's very fluid and smooth. And with that, I mean, that translates from puppies all the way to adult dogs that are competing in the level 3, right? Like Isaiah is a mastermind at working dogs. I've seen dogs
I appreciate it.
in training that wouldn't even look at a tug. They would just stare at their handler. And within a month, that dog is biting on the tug. That dog is biting his leg, and the dog is happy. The handler's happy. Isaiah's happy. It's a very blissful experience, even though it's the violence of getting bit by a dog, right? And that's something beautiful to see.
I appreciate it, bro. I appreciate it.
So ironically, talking about that, I was thinking about the other day, and I was thinking about wanting to get my bulldog puppy, and thinking about how far Isaiah's come, and thinking about that when I get my bulldog puppy, I want Isaiah to do all the foundation. I would normally touch the puppy and I would do all the foundation and be like, "Okay, now Isaiah, work it." No, I want you to work the puppy.
I appreciate that.
Hell
and
yeah.
like your ability to read puppies, that's the really important thing to me.
Yeah.
If you know how to read, people know how to read puppies, and then they come here and then they're making a bunch of dogs pop off and not reading thresholds. Like, that makes me sad. That makes me cry, because you know better, right? The fact that you know how to read dogs and you're able to read thresholds and push thresholds with never seeing any negative out of the dog, that's what really impresses me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's all from what you taught me how to do it. So either way,
You can work my puppy any day.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and it's awesome to see when I had attended the seminar with Jeff and Paul.
Yes,
right?
shout out to Jeff and Paul.
Yeah,
Amazing.
awesome time. I learned a couple of things. Granted, I didn't know anything about dogs, and I still really don't know much. But it's exciting to see someone like Isaiah, who's working all these dogs for Dogma, and he's up at the front. He's writing down notes on his notepad. He's in between dogs. He's talking to Jeff about, "Hey, how do I solve this problem with this dog? In this situation, what would you do?" Right. So it's like the constant learning.
Yeah.
Student of the game.
Yeah,
Student of the
absolutely.
game. Yeah, and that's the most important thing, is to always be a student,
Right.
right? To be classically trained is to always be a student, is to always listen to the music, right? Always listen to the dog, and the dog will tell you everything. And that's why reading dogs is the most important thing. Because the second you can read the dog, and the dog will tell you what they need. The dog will tell you when they're ready for the next step. The dog will tell, like, people stay on just obligatory training timelines. And I'm like, no, but the dog just showed you that they learned it next step, right? So I think it's important to be able to read it and know where we can push the dog to. Because we're not pushing ourselves to get better,
Right.
then we're never going to get better.
Yeah.
You know, and people come and train with me, and the first time they train, they're like, yell at me. And I'm like, I'm not going to yell at you. I'm like, let's build a relationship. Once we have a relationship, then I'll put pressure on you and I'll expect more out of you.
Right.
But in the beginning, we first just have to build that bond. So, you know, the relationship between dog and human and coach and student, you know, this is why we asked you to be on the podcast, because you're a good student. And this is your positive reinforcement, because we care about your opinion and we want the internet to hear your opinion.
Wow, that's the first time I ever heard that. But it definitely means a lot to me, you know, just building up fundamentals on dogs, right? You talk about being a GOAT and leaving back a legacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the legacy doesn't end when you stop handling dogs or you stop competing in PSA. The legacy is the knowledge that you instilled in Isaiah and your club members and Hood Rat Heather and all the people that you've influenced, right?
Mm-hmm.
They might not take your system and do it one-to-one, and that's not the point. The
point
point
is
to
not to,
learn
yes.
from basically this whole kind of bowl of individuals that you have listed as your GOAT, that he might have listed as his GOAT, and take that and apply it to dogs with different temperaments, different drives. You know, each dog's a different personality, right?
Yeah.
So you cannot apply the same timelines, the same pressure, even the same training methods to the same dogs.
Yep.
And so I think that's what's kind of unique about dog sports is regardless of how long you've been in the industry, there's always something to learn. There's always a new way to do things.
Yeah.
And it's super exciting.
We have coming up soon, Isaiah,
Oh yeah, bar bites this weekend.
bar bites with
Marquise Berry.
with Marquise. Marquise is a goat.
Sheesh.
Yeah, he's definitely one of my goats.
This is Isaiah's
My first mentor.
first mentor.
He primed me for
He
you.
primed you. Marquise and I have been friends for many years. Marquise and a very good friend of mine, Ty Nero, have the same mentor,
Garvin.
Garvin Hercules.
Yeah, I met him like
peace.
twice.
Rest in peace, Garvin. And I met Marquise when I went out. Ty asked me one day to come and train with Garvin in Brooklyn. And I was like, you know what? I was in between clubs. And I said, you know, I'm always going to accept the offer. And because Ty respected Garvin so much, I'm going to automatically give Garvin that respect.
Right.
And because Marquise was a student of Garvin, the same level of respect, even though we just met. And so, you know, like that, we're talking about, this is 2010, you know, like we've been friends for a long time, and I'm really excited to have him here to give a workshop and then judge our bar bites, our
Based off
protection
what you-
tournaments. It's just fun. Everyone's like, I don't know if my dog could do that. I'm like, your dog can do it. We have 3 different levels. It's just for us to have fun. We have some
Right.
trophies. There's a little bit of bragging rights, but it's just for us to have fun with our dogs. That's all we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't want to judge it. I didn't want to judge it because I helped train all these dogs. It's like as a CGC evaluator, you're not supposed to judge your own dogs. Like I wanted someone's opinion that they don't know these dogs and they can give an honest, unbiased opinion. And it's someone that I respect and I want their opinion too.
Right.
So what I love about Dogma, you guys throwing on all these events. You guys had the Police Canine event a couple weeks ago. Obviously
Yes.
the trials, the bite nights.
Yes.
You're doing week-long trainings where you're breaking up your school. You live at a school, right? You're kind of invoking that small family feeling you get from the small towns.
Yep.
Super cool.
Yep. The Police Canine event went amazing.
It was a lot of fun.
There was 13 teams showed up to compete, and it was a phenomenal event. And we're excited to do more in the future. You know, different protection tournaments, and it's just about bringing in knowledge and hosting fun events, because we also have to break up the monotony of what we're doing. We're always competing. We're trying to compete at a high level. Sometimes you got to break up the monotony and you got to do something different. You know, we're going to do like a Dogma Alley tournament,
Right.
you know? We
Set up the annual one that we'll do every year too.
yeah. So I think it's just important for us to, you know, host all these events to help with the community, because the community is really important, and bringing everyone together and everyone being able to, you know, come together and train together and harmonize, even though we don't all do the same thing, but we all have a love of dogs because we're all here for the dogs.
That's what I love too, is you're bringing it together and you're kind of breaking away from the stress and pressure of a PSA event, right? Like bar bites trials, you take your dog to a little bar, he gets to bite some people. Like there's no like serious judging. You're not stressed about it because you don't expect what's going on. You're kind of just going there to hang out with your dog and hang out with people.
Yeah, it's for fun.
It's for fun. And once you're done running your dog, you go to the bar, you get a drink. You know, in that video, we were trying to, my friend Richard, shout out to Richard. I was like, oh, okay, we're going to act this. And so I sat down at the bar with Pebbles and I was taking shots of water. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to actually make it look like I'm drinking because everyone knows me, I don't really drink. I'm good for like, you know, maybe 5 beers a year. But, you know, it was like, oh, okay, let's make it something fun. Once you're done running your dog, you go, you grab a beer and you get to watch the rest of the dogs. You know, I think it's just a fun event for all of us to get together and enjoy ourselves and, you know, have fun with our dogs. So as I said, break up the monotony of PSA because I've been training for the 2s. I'm stressed, you know, I got all this work to do. I'm showing in 3 weeks in Montana, like, you know, but it'd just be a fun thing to go out and just run my dog with.
Right.
You know? So, goats, you know,
hold on a second.
Yeah.
I was at the Toyota dealership and
he brings gifts.
I bring gifts.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh,
2 little stickers that say
Amazing.
the GO.A.T.
Thanks, dude.
I saw these in the repair line and immediately thought of Jonathan, and I was like,
That's
we
great.
appreciate
something
you.
cool to have.
I'm gonna put it. I want to put it here on my thing.
yeah, I know PSA people are
Because-
big sticker fans, so
Hell yeah! I put them all over my
Sticker
trapper,
bomb
my trapper
everything.
keeper.
yeah.
Yeah, I sticker bomb everything, anything that I can. As a kid, I wasn't allowed to like put stickers everywhere. So now, you know, now that I can put stickers on things, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
But you're still not the GO.A.T. Sorry.
No. And again, if you refer to yourself as a goat, you're an asshole. No, it is a term of endearment given to you by other people that also are people, to me, people that I respect. For you know, Shaq to call Jordan the GOAT or vice versa. You know, these are terms of endearment. You know, my buddy Syke from South Bay Malinois, I post a video of, you know, me with some soft ass music, just healing around in trial with my dog. And he put up a goat emoji and I'm like, you know, dude, I appreciate you. You know, to me, you're a goat, right? You know, you're a goat in what you do. You bridge the gap between, you know, training personal protection dogs
Street
and
dogs,
competing. Yeah. Like, I think you demonstrate that people can do both. Find you a trainer that can do both. People that train, I only train real dogs. Those dogs that go out to, and then they attempt to do a PDC and they suck. And then they get mad at me that they fail obedience because the dog just walking behind them. Like, that's a goat. That's someone that, you know, find you a trainer that can do all, right? Out in California, you have one of my goats, one of my idols. So you can say goat. I use the term idol, but she's definitely a goat, is Pitbull Larry. Larry Hansen is a goat. That woman has what she's done for the Pitbull community and the amount of dogs that she's titled, you know, and titled in multiple different venues.
Damn, we forgot about her with that conversation we had with the best pit bull on the West Coast.
We did. But we can't forget Larry. Larry's one of my goats. I met her. I was decoying 2011 Pitbull Nationals with Jeff. And I was sitting down in a group of people and I said something about Waleed and someone from behind me started talking and I turned around and I like stood up. It was like I had met a celebrity, right? And I stood up and I'm like, you're Larry Hansen. And she goes, yes, hi. And she's just the sweetest person and a wealth of knowledge. And like that was, you know, I very rarely fanboy, but I definitely fangirled that day. You know, like I was like, oh my God, I got to meet Pitbull Larry, right? It was, you know, as a Pitbull enthusiast myself, having a true love for the breed and helping people with off breeds. That's why I want to get a off breed because I think it can be done. I think the people that say, oh, they're off breeds, they can't do it. I think that's bullshit. I think they just have to be trained a different way.
Right.
You know, you have to, you know, you have to train them a different way. You have to train them the way that they need to be trained. Oscar Mora. Oscar Mora is one of my goats. This is a gentleman that, you know, we came up at similar times. We have similar amounts of time in the industry, both proven ourselves on in what we've done. And I was giving a seminar in California, and he showed up just to say what's up. Just hung out for the first hour. Sent a bunch of his people there, encourages people to come. Like, I appreciate you, dude. I appreciate the people that I've come up with, even though I had the opportunity to train with him. I was going to California. I was raising cougar for French ring, and I said, Oscar, would you meet with me and train with me? He met with me on like a Tuesday in the middle of the day to come and help me. And I found those videos the other day, and I cherish those videos. I love those videos. Those are like early French ring foundation for cougar, and with a buddy of mine, right? That's a GOAT, and then watching him go from, competing in other sports and then coming to PSA and closing out his PSA 1 under me in Vegas. It was the highest score I've ever given out in obedience, was a 98.5. And he earned that 98.5. That was a damn near perfect. He lost 3 half points, like damn near perfect routine. And I respect that. I respect the shit out of that, because I know how hard that is to do. I know how much time and effort that takes. And people only see the 5-second, 10-second videos on the internet. They don't see the 10,000 hours that went into being a GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
How many hours does it take to be a GOAT?
Your whole life.
Your whole life. But it's never ending.
Yeah.
But at some point you can...
Because it can get revoked. I was saying, like, if you stop it, it wouldn't get revoked, but it can get revoked if you do something crazy.
Give me an example of something what sports player could you
Tiger Woods when he crashed his car into the tree.
I should have never married you. He lost his GOAT status.
Yeah. And then got it back from competing again.
Okay.
He's trying to get it back.
Yeah. This is controversial. There's a lot of, at some point people would say that Michael Vick was a GOAT in football. I think you take away that because he's just a horrible piece of shit human being. That should be, they should do to him what he did to his dogs, or he allowed to happen, whatever the case may be. I wasn't there, but that's some fucked up shit. And I love dogs. And I had one of my father's good friends one day tried to tell me that he did his time and we should forget about it. And I'm like, if you're mean to puppies, who will you not be mean to? Right. So I think that you can, yes, you can be revoked.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if your morals if your being immoral outweighs your accomplishments, I think you can have your GOAT status taken away for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think GOAT is, what is GOAT? I think GOAT is a term of endearment. I think GOAT is a term of endearment for someone that has accomplished what we want to accomplish, right? Or whether we, or what we admire that they've accomplished. Yeah. Because GOAT status comes from accomplishments, right? It's not just being a good person. Like, you have to actually accomplish things to be a GOAT. Do stuff.
Yeah, no, you got to. That's why I said you got to make the plays. You can't just say it and then not make the plays.
Multiple dogs ran in the car. Can't even get out of the car. I'm a GOAT. Like, that doesn't work. So that's the opposite. Do the fucking opposite, right? And trust your gut. Trust your instincts. If you're in training and something doesn't feel right, like, trust yourself. Trust the dog. Trust your dog.
And I think if you're not a part of that industry and you're trying to look up who the GOAT is, the first thing you look up is how titled are they? How many championships have they won? You look at the NBA, you look at, Bill Russell has 11 championship rings. I mean, he played basketball in like the 1940s, 1960s, right?
Still. Yeah. He's still a GOAT.
You look at golf, right? You look at Tiger Woods. How many majors has he won? How many Greens Jackets does he have? You look at dog sports, you see how many national championships they have or how many times have they completed the highest level of that sport.
Yep.
It's really, if you're from the outside looking in, you're seeing how accomplished is this person and how well do the people around him respect him.
Yeah. So this is our opinion on the GOAT. We appreciate everyone tuning in today and watching our opinions on what is the GOAT. And the GOAT is whoever you call the GOAT. So I have a lot of goats, and I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Thank you for having us.
Yep.